Oh, yes. All you beautiful, wonderful people out there. It's Thursday. We got a special one. We have the one and only, the myth, the legend, Gwen. No, we're here today to go over exciting one, I think, because we get so many comments and questions on things that kind of repetitive and they keep coming up and they keep being the same kind of questions. And so Gwen and I want to sit down and kind of run through a bunch of stuff that we hear a lot to hopefully help whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced wing foiling. And then for sure, anybody out there that's listening in, please fire away your questions and comments if we can help you with anything, or maybe you're struggling with something. And then hopefully we can help you shine that light to pass it on to others and just inspire. That's it. We're here to inspire you to be your best. So
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really cool. Alex, your wife, is kind of like getting into it. So, sometimes we kind of like forget how it is at the beginning. You just like, you tend to you forget the challenges and stuff. So that's good. It's kind of like reminding us of that. And then I went out winging a few days ago here. I'm in Idaho right now, in the lake. And there was a guy that was like learning. And at the end, he came back and talked to us. He actually watched our videos, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are so inspiring." And I was like, "You are inspiring." During the entire time, his session, he was just trying to get up and then end up downwind, walking with his gear, and then trying over and over. And I'm like, that is, like that dedication and motivation when you have to wear a dry suit. It's freezing, and he's just like, like struggling to even get going, yet he's like walking his gear again and again and again for like 2 hours. I was like, that is inspiring, like
yeah, I think, you know what, a lot of people, this is so awesome that this moment's happening, because a lot of people think like, oh, Damo and Gwen, you guys are doing this and it's really helping us, awesome, and we're stoked. But reality is, your information back to us, your engagement, your stoke, your notes, your comments, your other comments to others, it makes us probably more happy and more motivated to do more. And that's just how life is, right? So like, if you go out and you're totally struggling wing foiling or whatever, you're a newbie, and you just talk to somebody about it and you give them a little information like, hey, I bought a wing and this is how I did it. It's super hard. I'm struggling, whatever, but I'm doing it. You may have just inspired that person. And like, that is literally how things go. And you can be around those people that lift you up. And I swear that, we say this, and this is dead honest truth. We have the patrons who support us, and look, we love you guys. We don't even really know how to work that thing, but all I know is that, you guys shine the light to like make us more inspired because you're supporting us, right? So like, all we want to do is give you everything we can. And so please leave anything you want to learn or anything we can help you guys with, like just fire away at us, because we're trying to come up with content we see the most engaged, or most people like messaging us. We don't care really if it gets lots of views or whatever. It's more like if it can really help you. And as Gwen said, my wife is learning, and like here, we got a bunch of videos out there, and I'm just going to give this message out there to everybody listening right now, because it was like a home run. So I'm like hanging on to my little nugget who's one in my hand, and I'm like trying to film my wife with the cell phone. And like, here's a perfect example when you're first learning, if you're new to wing foiling or you're first getting going. If you can have somebody just grab a cell phone and just film you for 2 seconds on your first struggle tack, whatever. Because my wife was like, oh man, I'm feeling like this, I'm up like this and whatever. And then I show her the video, right? And she's like totally bent over with the wing, right? Like literally like, and she thought she was standing vertical, and you would never know that, because your feeling of something is different. And many times, my kiting career, I'd be like, oh man, I'm doing this. And I watch a video, I'm like, I wasn't even close to doing that. Like it wasn't even near that, dude. It was so far from that. But so saying that, watching my wife for an hour learn a little bit, and by the way, it's just the coolest thing to see. But another huge tip for her, and this is like, she's new, she's not even up on foil, people. She's like riding along in one direction, and she's got good wing handling, she can get to her feet. She got up on foil, but she was nervous, and so she wanted to put it down. But long story short, this was super helpful for all you new people, and feel free to pass it on. Was the hardest part everybody has when you first get started wing foiling, well, there's a lot of hard parts there, but let's just say this part, is having your board not always go straight downwind, right? So as we've heard all these comments, we get this a lot, and this is super helpful for people. And even in our last video, I even screwed it up because I've been doing it a while that I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
But when you have your board, let's just say the wind is blowing straight at this screen right here. So technically, I want my board to be angled sideways to this, and then obviously vice versa, go in the other direction. But you want to angle your board sideways to the wind, and you can kind of take your knees and you can turn it sideways to. So if this is my board, I set my knees at an angle like this, because then I can hold the wing, but as it starts to pull, my board actually goes in the direction sort of sideways to the wind. And it's funny because as you do the sport a little bit, you didn't even think about that. You're just like, oh, you just get up and you go. And my wife was like, huge wake up call that was like the easiest thing, was to just get on with your knees and be a little bit at an angle and have that board, make sure it was sideways to the wind. That was like a home run for her. And so I just want to point that out there for people that are struggling. Is one, you get leverage because the wing is pulling, but the board is also leveraging against the wing, so you're not going straight downwind. It was super helpful. So hopefully that helps everybody. But that was like a really well, two tips right there. One is, if you can get somebody to video you when you're first learning right in the beginning, it really helps you see a lot of the things you think you're not doing, but you're actually doing or doing wrong. And then two, make sure to angle that board, you know, if you can, into the wind or sideways to the wind. That's going to give you the leverage to be able to pull against the wing and stand yourself up, versus if I'm going straight downwind and you're pulling, you're just falling over the backwards because there's no power.
Yeah, I mean, I think a key thing is, like, you know, she went out, she spent the time, and she figured that out for her. You know, and I think, like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, she is with like Damien LeRoy. You would think she would not struggle with all of the tips she can get.
That's even worse when you're in a relationship. By the way, everybody, if you're in a relationship, be careful what you say when you're teaching somebody.
But that's the key, is like, is going out there, and the struggle is going to be for everybody, regardless of if, you know, if you have somebody to like give you tips or if you don't. So also, you know, if you are like going out on your own, first, like, that's awesome. And then two, like, don't feel bad about it, or like, you know, like, you're gonna figure it out. And most of the time, like, you actually gonna figure out things that we might not even think about, because we have not, you know, like, been facing the same challenges. So
I love it. Look at all these comments coming in. Neil, I'm pretty much all the way around on full foiling wing jibe, but I fall after switching my feet to toe side. That's a tricky part. That takes repetition, is what I would say there, because it is a quick switch. Should I practice toe side before going into the jibe? There's no question riding toe side is going to help you there, but I honestly think that little moment, Neil, it's actually a hard moment. It's a moment that's got to be quick to turn. And
yeah, I mean, I feel like you can't really practice toe side until you do your jibe, because that would mean you would start toe side, and that would be even harder, like going from the board on the water on your toe side to like being up on foil toe side. That would be way, like, even harder. So the best way to practice is really, you know, keep doing it. Approach, you know, you're riding hillside, you do your jibe, and then that's your way to practice, like, getting better at riding toe side. But I would say, you know, one, that is a common problem. So for sure, like, don't think you are the only one, like, struggling with that. Everybody is at the beginning. It's super common. And often what happens is, like, you know, you do your jibe, and you don't put enough pressure on your toe side. So basically, you know, when you ride hillside, you kind of like lean against the wing. Well, when you're gonna find yourself toe side, you also have to lean, but now you're not leaning on your heel, you are leaning on your toes, and that's often what happens. And if you don't do it enough, because it does feel like unnatural, it does feel like scary. And so if you don't do it, then what happens is, like, you pretty much are standing like flat on the board, and now you start to go downwind, and that is a very unstable position, because you could fall easier direction. And also because you are going downwind, you have nothing in your wing. So, having wind in your wing helps with, you are holding on to something. If you go straight downwind, now you are not holding on to anything. Plus you are like actually lifting the wing because there is, it's not holding on its own. So I would say the biggest tip is just like keep leaning. You know how to do it. If you can engage your jibe, you know how to do it. It's just a matter of keep doing it through the entire turn, and after the turn to keep riding toe side. So
yeah, and thank you, obvious trash, great name by the way, but thank you for your insight there. Some really good tips there. 100% I agree with, anytime you go toe side, it's a really twisting your hips and pulling a lot more in on your backhand. It's an awkward feeling. And another mention that we could throw in there is when you do enter that jibe, I would say when you ride a foil flat, your board is flat, everything is flat, you don't have much in the wing, a lot can happen because it's just like a unknown. It's can go left, right, the swell hits you. So as Gwen was saying, for myself, and I just speak for what works for me, is if I'm on my heel side, I'm on my heel side. If I'm making that jibe or I'm making that switch, the faster I can roll from heel to toe, I then have leverage always against something. So I always have a little leverage against my mass, against my wing. I can lean on my wing, versus if I'm dead flat, you're a little bit like, whoa, a lot can happen. It could go back, forward. Just something to think about when you go through those transitions.
Andrew just bought a 77
liter board. Awesome. He's fully advanced right there. Gwen's going bigger. He's at like 150 liter right now doing backflips.
Wing 5 meter, foil 1250. What is a good wind strength to go out to Lyon? Well, so I mean,
this is a perfect question that we get.
I've been out once so far and managed to foil shortly. Well, good job. I mean, 77 liters is not an easy bomb to learn on, depending on like your weight, but it can be tricky. I mean, also like 1250 foil is could not necessarily easy. But in terms of like wind like speed, I would say like
I'd say 15 minimum knots to like 22, 23 or more, to around 20, I would say would be epic, because I even say that for beginners, that this question, that even with your dimensions and your boards and your wing foil, I would say we get this question a ton, and this is one on the list, and that is, what are the best conditions to learn in or go out in? And everybody's like, I have like 10 to 12 knots. 10 to 12 knots is pretty light. 100%. I would say 17 miles per hour is kind of like, if you're new, 17 miles per hour and up is a really good like starting point. It gives you enough wind to be powered to pull in and kind of go, versus you got to be a little bit more experienced for that really light stuff, 10 to 10 knots and less. I mean, that's super light for people and very, very hard for people to learn winging.
Yeah, and same with like if it's too windy, then the problem is like the water gets super crazy. You have a smaller wing, and sometimes the smaller wing, like I know like when we went to Maui, and my wife Katie, like she was kind of like trying to learn, and she hated it because she had to be on the 3-meter wing, and she's not used to that. And the water was maybe a bit more choppy. So like yeah, for sure, 15 to 20 knots is the sweet spot for learning.
Yeah, I mean, great information here. He's obvious trash is saying 4.5 with, in 30 knots, getting blown away, wing is all over the place. I mean, just so everybody listening, and this is like a key thing that a lot of people probably don't know if you didn't kite surf or windsurf, but the bigger wings and the slighter winds, like call it a 7 and a 6 or an 8 or whatever it is, those have nice pull, right? In lighter winds. When you start increasing wind speed, so like let's just call it 20 knots to 25 knots to 30 knots to 35 knots to 40 knots, the significant density of that wind is ginormous. It's a huge difference. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you can kind of get away with it in light winds with a variety of wings, we'll call it. And then when it's really, really windy, I mean, obviously you can ride a big wing and just hang on for the craziness, but the density of wind or wind at a higher speed, I guess what I'm trying to say is the if I went from a 3.5 to a 3, it's a significant jump when you're riding in stronger winds than call it a 6.5 and a 7, if that makes sense, in lighter winds. So it really makes a bigger difference on those minute increments in smaller size wings than it does in the bigger size wings. Hopefully that came across properly there.
Yeah. Mirko said he's a kite surfer. He started wing foiling and he finds it very hard to keep his balance on and stay on the burn. And he's asking if we think a balanced burn would be a good exercise. When one, I would say, I would ask like, what is the volume of your burn?
Yeah.
And two, yeah, I mean, balanced burn for sure. Anything that you can do that is going to practice your balance would help. I mean, I've even seen guys that said that the one wheel
Has been helpful.
the one wheel has been helpful for like foiling. Also, just do you have foiling experience? Maybe you should try an e-foil or foiling behind a boat. That
Yeah.
might be able to help. But the biggest thing is like if it's even hard to like stay on the burn without being up on foil, then maybe the burn is too small.
Yeah.
And it would be easier to be on a bigger burn. That's something that we see all the time is like that like decision of like what volume burn do I want to go with, and should I go with smaller so I don't have to change. The reality is you should go bigger because your progression is going to be so much faster.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it so much more, rather than just like struggling for longer than you have to.
And my next other question, other than the leaderboard sides, for sure for Gwen, I agree with that, would be, can you go to the beach and fly the wing and have full control of the wing and very easy in your hands? Because if you don't have good control of the wing on the beach, you're just going to go struggle on the water. Like a lot of people could spend a lot more time on the beach getting really good with the wing. Or riding a skateboard or whatever it is, just getting comfortable to know that I can just manage the wing and have the puffs hit it and do everything, feel comfortable there. Then when I get on the board, I actually can use the wing to help me like, whoa, I'm falling backwards. I can pull in versus not really knowing it. You're going to struggle even more on the board too. So I would definitely say your wing handling before you even jump on the board is going to be super duper helpful as well.
Lester, he has 140-liter board, 2100 foil, 4.6 wing, and he's asking if 15 knots would be good for learning. He's 180 pounds. So I would say, I mean, 4.6 wing is maybe more on the smaller side, and it might be hard to get in 15 knots. It's possible, but then sometimes when you just have enough, it requires to really have like the pumping technique down. And when you learn, you just you don't have that, that's for sure. So it's always better to be a bit like to have more power.
Have power. Yeah.
Have more power.
This is perfect. There's a few people chiming in right now, and this is good information right here. And that would be a few of you guys here have some larger boards. With the larger boards, you get stability. So leader's awesome. He gives you the balance on the board. Unfortunately, that large volume sometimes is sticky because the board is touching the water. So it's sticky to get off the water. So sometimes when you're learning, because you don't quite have all those skills, like Gwen said, it's really good to have a little bit more power, because then I don't know how to pump right in the beginning. So I need to just pull in and have that pull and lift me and get me up on a foil. And then I can kind of, learn how that works and learn how to depower. So always having a little bit more wind when you're first learning is super helpful. And even my wife said it, and there was actually three other girls up there that were kind of chiming in and helping my wife. And they all said the biggest thing that helped them in the very beginning was, and I'm going to hit this is in our notes for everybody out there, was, and this is subjective. Every board is different. Every foil is different. But for these three women, they said, take their foils and masts and mount it all the way to the front of the board. And the reason why that helped them in the beginning stages was because they're not going to pump anyhow. They didn't even know how to pump. They don't know how to work the wing. All they can do is guide it and pull in. And so what helped all of them was move all their foil tracks all the way to the front, so that once their momentum started moving, the board would want to lift up, and they're now up on foil and they can go. And that was helpful for them a ton. So that was one tip that we could just mention. Now, I say that subjective because, some companies, maybe your foil tracks are like at the nose, and you definitely don't want your mast like all the way to the front of the nose. But I would say forward in general is going to help obviously lift that board, and then back is going to keep that nose down because it's hard to get the lift. So just in general for everybody out there. But
yeah, I would say also, like, if you go to the spot and you see experienced riders and you look at the wing they are riding, if they are on the 4, you as a beginner, you might want to consider,
yep,
pumping a 5,
Yep.
like
Yep.
always bigger, because they are efficient. They know how to use like the most
Mhm.
of their wing. And when you learn, I mean, you can only use like 40% of your wing because you just don't know where to put it. You don't know how to pump it, to like pump.
Yep.
So always, if you are able to see other riders at your spot, then consider riding bigger. And then actually,
This
perfect
is
comment.
this is a great point. You go, Gwen, and then I'll jump in.
Well, I don't know if we are thinking about the same
I'm
comment, but
sure
like
we are.
at the
You were
lake.
gonna say you love everybody?
At the lake, very inconsistent wind. Sometimes you start, it's like whatever 16 knots. You get to the middle of the lake, it's 30 knots. Any tips for riding over power? And that is exactly what I'm like experiencing here. Like I'm right now, I'm in Idaho in a lake, and the wind is crazy. And I used to ride here, but I forgot about it. And it's like, I'm like blown away. I mean, like, it's like, how do you do it? Like, because either you don't have enough power and then you come back swimming, or you are like way overpowered. One thing, if you are not learning, if you already ride, one thing that would be really helpful is actually to have a harness, because the problem when you are like always overpowered is like you can barely hang on, and then you barely have enough. If you have a harness, at least you can, in the gust and everything, you can, you save your energy. So I feel like what would be a game changer for very inconsistent wind on lakes is riding with a harness, so you can ride through the gust like much easier. And then 2, I mean, that's kind of like, it's not easy. It's not easy riding. It's like, it's just gonna make you a better rider for when you go to like a perfect spot.
Yeah.
Because
We definitely didn't have the same things to say, but I love you to death. That was some great information. What I was gonna say is, on the lake, I mean, Gwen nailed it. Look, gusty conditions is always gonna be harder learning. But what I was gonna mention is, whenever you have those conditions, let's just call it 16 knots and gusts of 30. Let's change that to, let's call it 12 or 6 knots, but it's gusting 20 knots. So it's doable to ride, but lulls out to where there's nothing. This is a lot of places out there. Be patient. What I mean by that is, look upwind, wait until you feel the pressure in your wing, and that's maybe when you start to go. And if it doesn't happen, stop. Be patient. Wait for the puff to come, because a lot of times people just, man, they're just going and they're just like blazing straight downwind, and technically it may be too light to even go. So be patient. Lock that board into the wind. Just hold it. Wait for the pressure to fill into your wing. Wait for the that power to kind of engage in your hands, and then get those pumps going, and you can get up on foil and start jamming, and then you can ride through those lulls. But be patient. That's the big one in gusty conditions, is be patient to get up. Don't just fight it and always try to get up.
Well, also ride with enough volume. And here is an example. My first day here, I went out with the same setup I ride in the ocean in Jupiter, which was like 58-liter burn with foot straps. I'm going out, I'm thinking I'm gonna go and do backflips and jumps and stuff. And I was like struggling so much. I came back the next day, I actually put on the bigger burn, 88 liters. And that was a game changer, because the problem, because it was so up and down the wind, sometimes I could not even get going, and then I couldn't even just stay on the burn. There was like nothing. So maybe riding with a bigger burn that allows you to, like, when there is absolutely like nothing, you can still wait for the wind. And then the other thing was like, once you are up on foil, like make your way upwind, because once you don't have the wind, then you might just like end up slowly going downwind. So plan for that.
Yeah. Ryan, you had a good question here. You have, good size front wing, a good size board, 95 liter. If you're a little bit more experienced, that's a good size, 100 liters or around there. Can I go in 10 to 12 knots and I have a 5 meter wing? I would say you're definitely on the minimum side. That is very advanced to do. I'd say a bigger wing's definitely going to help you. It's just going to give you a little bit more juice. I mean, this is a perfect example is Gwen sweared by a 6'2". This is last year's Mantis from Cabrina. And I was like, I only ride a 5, Gwen. I only ride a 5. I love the 5. It's my bread and butter. When it gets light, when it gets, call it 6 to 12, dude, that 6 is so magic. And I totally am not that guy anymore. I think maybe kiters get that like once I learn how to wing foil, they're like, oh man, I'm not going to use the 7 or the 6 or I'm like professional now and I only use these small sizes. I don't know. I still think those big wings work well. One, they're stable. Two, you can actually jump and like hang a little longer because there's more loft. And then technically it just makes it easy to get up and get going. And the wings nowadays, they kind of depower so good that like, I don't know. I would just say I have no issues, and I'm 150 pounds riding a 6 meter. Love it, and I would say it's definitely going to help you, Ryan. Like a 8 meter F1 is magic wing out there. 7s, 6s, they're going to help a ton. I would say 10 to 12 knots is still it's still pretty light.
Yeah, for 5 meter,
anyway,
I think it would be very challenging and
like even for good riders, that's challenging conditions.
I mean, if you have like good gust, then maybe you get up. Once you're up, you are good. The problem is getting up. So that would be the challenge. And if you can't get up, I mean, thanks, Mac Kiteboarding for commenting.
Of course, we love you guys. We got to get you back on an interview again. By the way, Mac Kiteboarding has tons of information, a lot of wingfoil videos, a lot of great information. We love those guys. One of my favorite events 100 years ago. I didn't realize how old I was, but holy geesh, I've been seeing things like 20 years back and I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I'm that old? Wow. It's beautiful. Let's talk about a big question that comes up a ton is safety attire. This one has come up a ton. Dude, there's nothing wrong with wearing a helmet. We just filmed a commercial and we were wearing helmets because, reality is anything can happen. 100%. You can hit your head. Foils are, even if you're good, you can, I mean, Gwen and I, when we go try new stuff, dude, helmets are like on. Whenever
helmet and
on, we
impact
know
vest.
something's going down.
No, helmet, impact vest, always.
Yeah, and another one I just wanted to say was full, like if you're in tropical Caribbean, whatever, maybe you want to wear bikinis or whatever, full like suits where you can, because when you're on and up and down off that board, you're going to rub against the EVA padding and you're going to ruin your knees, ruin your feet because you're on your knees and your tops of your feet. So booties or socks or neoprene, anything covering, it's going to help you a ton. It'll help your wife or kids or anybody trying it. It'll help them a ton, not get totally chafed up. That's super helpful information that I know we don't really say too much about it, but going back on it, it's like, man, impact vests and 100% helmets. There's some helmets with the I think Zane has them that cover the ears so you don't blow your eardrums out. I forget the name, but some great helmets out there.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing here, like I have, so it's really cold. So I'm riding with like 8 millimeters booties, gloves, hood, dry suit. And what I found like very difficult is one, I mean, I'm wearing so much that like I feel like my mobility is not as good. And then two, like with 8 millimeters booties, like you have no idea where your feet are on the board. You don't know, like, are you on the board or are you just like like standing on the nose or whatever. So that is a challenge, like, riding in colder condition where you have to wear that much. So it would make your learning experience so much easier if you can like travel to a warm place and you spend 2 weeks or whatever, I feel like your progression would be like insane.
And Matt Kiteboarding jumped in and they said this is literally on my list, no joke. I just want to tap on this. This is something you can do when you're first learning or telling people whatever, you're first trying to get up. Biggest mistake a lot of people make with the wing is it's right out in front of you and you're just pulling in for power and pulling out. Man, the higher you can have that wing, when you pull in on it, it's up high, it's lifting you up. So it's helping you lift that board off the water, or lifting you to get your weight off the water, which will help you lift up onto foil. So totally agree with that. Wing high, 100%. Yes, it's a little bit at an angle and it's a little bit out in front of you. And sometimes it's a perception because you watch somebody good out there and they're ripping along and their wings like right next to them sideways. It's not necessarily how you start or you get going. You know, the higher it is, the more lift it can kind of create and get you off that water. So 100% agree with that. That is a big question that happens in a lot learning, 100%.
Well, there was a comment going back a bit here, like, does a high aspect foil helps? Talking about like the gusty condition, since you go faster, making the wind have less effect. I would say yes, the high aspect foil helps, especially in like the when you don't have the wind.
Yep.
You can glide through it easier. I would say that would be the most benefit, maybe more than like you have less drag in the gust. I mean, you do, but I don't know if you would really like feel that much of a difference. I think the most difference would be really the glide, that you can, have less wind. But also something that is interesting for people sometimes struggling with the jibe. And, I remember like I was, Katie, my wife, was like out winging, and I put her on like this like foil that has like incredible drag, very slow, and she kind of like likes it because it's like it goes up very like steady, and then it's like it's pretty easy to like to stay on it, very stable. But the downside is like it has so much drag. When I took her setup, because she would end up downwind, I would ride her setup upwind, I could barely make a jibe, because as soon as you let go of the power in your wing to turn, like that thing pretty much like goes down. So I would have to do such a tight jibe. So high aspect foil sometimes can help with maneuvers, like with transition, because now with your jibe, with your tack, because now you don't slow down that much and you can really glide through your turn, giving you more time to transition the wing. Or so high aspect foils are amazing. I mean, we both always ride on high aspect foils. I don't know,
the industry's leaning that direction is what I would say.
Yeah.
Another a question, jumping back into toe side, what are some things you should focus on toe side? Look, everybody out there, toe side's not easy. But your key points that you can really work on is, one, when you make your jibe and you're going into toe side, or you're just making a turn to go toe side, look where you're going. Like, pick a spot on the horizon, and if right away you start going there and you're like fading from it, fight to go there. And it's surprising, because this always goes back to like when we used to race. If you focus on the buoy, you more than likely aren't going to go around the buoy. If you focus above the buoy, you'll end up going around the buoy, because for some reason your body like guides directly to the buoy, and you're like, you think you're going upwind, but you're actually cracking off, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. So if you actually always focus a even higher point, you'd be surprised what it changes your body. But I would say another thing with toe side is really pull in on your backhand, really twist your hips. And then, as Gwen said it earlier in this show, is roll over on your toes. It's an awkward feeling, but it's the same as heel side. When you're riding heel side, you're leveraged back. You're not standing vertical. You're kind of leveraged against that wing. So same thing, toe side is you got to get leverage. You got to get a little more at angle. Toe side. Toe side's hard. That's it. Put your time in. It'll come.
Yeah. I mean, something interesting here was thinking about switching foil brand. Currently riding Starboard 1500 S type. Any recommendation? And then Mike Kiteboarding said the Cabrina H series foils are the best. I agree. I love the Cabrina H series foil. I mean, I ride the 800 all the time. The 1000 is also amazing. The 1000 is the one Harry rides all the time. The they are like, to me, the reason the Cabrina like H series, the high aspect series foils is amazing is because they are super friendly. I know I've tried all the high aspect foils that are like super high performance, but then if you don't ride them super fast, they are like very hard to ride, and then they would stall very easily. What I love about the H series foil is you can ride them fast, you can ride them slow. It's super friendly, yet the performance side of it. I mean, when you watch like Kiahi like riding these foils, like he makes them like look amazing. That's his riding ability. But these foils can you can push them, yet they would be super friendly. So I
Yeah.
would I would recommend that for sure.
And Frank, thank you for chiming in. But this is super good. We mentioned it. Obviously a helmet, impact vest, 100%. He said he broke his ribs when he flipped. So impact vest, and another one that you reminded me of that we've heard a lot of is glasses. I know it may not seem like something super important, but there have been people that have glasses where things have bumped and maybe the foil could have hit the eye or whatever, and it actually hit the glasses or hit that solid piece.
There is a cool helmet.
Yeah, with the full cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
can't remember the name of the brand. But there is a cool helmet. I actually really like it because it seems like a pretty minimal like fit.
Yeah, so
But
you don't bust your eardrums.
it also has like a visor or something.
Just borrow your kid's football helmet and just put the whole thing on. One, it floats in the water, so you can be like, "Whoa," you'll be okay, Look, you can't go wrong having safety when you're starting this sport. It's not easy. You will fall. Everybody will fall. You still will fall even when you get better. um yeah, wow, man, thank you everybody for chiming in, being part of this. That just flew by. As we always talk about, look, we're doing this for you guys. We want to help inspire you guys, and for you guys to be here and throwing information out there and helping other people. This is what it's all about. And I just want to tap on a saying that's pretty cool, but it says, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. And it's just as is that simple right there. Is you know you may be in the beginning stages and you say something to somebody and you help them. It doesn't have to be Gwen or I or some professional or Kiahi or Kai Lenny. It can be you, it can be anybody. So just know that your words or your motivation or your insight to anything in life can be very impactful on somebody. So don't be afraid that you can't make a difference, or you can't do a good job in something, or you can't have an impact. There is no question. In my lifetime, I've realized that 99% of the people that actually probably impacted my life the most were some of the most quiet, humble people that you would never even expect, that made the biggest impact. And I'm not saying that that's how it is. I'm just saying that it doesn't matter who it is. You can make a massive impact on somebody. So I challenge every single one of you guys to go out this week and the rest of the weekend coming up, and look, make a difference in people's lives. You can change it for somebody. And truthfully, your positivity, your motivation will stem to such great things for other people. And your life will become, I truly believe it, but it's not that you're doing it to make yourself feel better. It's just all of a sudden positivity attracts positive things, right? So positive people, positive experiences, more opportunities. Your work life becomes fun. Things will change, I promise you. So I challenge you to go out there and share that message. So when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you start with helping somebody, but that is gonna attract somebody that's gonna help you. So it's exactly like you said, positivity attracts positivity. Like if you put that attitude in the world, you're gonna attract people that with the same attitude, and it's amazing. Like you want to have these people around you. So
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example is this. Look, Gwen and I met each other, whatever, and Gwen never winged, and I was like, take all my gear, and everybody's chiming in here. Everybody wants to help people. It's just reality of life. You want to share your experiences or not see somebody struggle. If you see somebody and they're there, talk to them, ask them, hey, I'm new to this. I'm trying, I'm working on this. They'll be so stoked to share their information with you and you them, and that's the most beautiful thing in
yeah,
life.
ask them, can I take your gear until for the next 2 days?
Yeah, that's kind of actually what happened. Yeah, that's technically. I
Well,
think I
I
gave it. I
actually
don't know. I can't really.
it wasn't this way. I didn't ask this random guy. I just met, hey, like, do you mind if I take your gear for the next 2 days? Damien actually offered, which was insane. But that's what happened. I took Damien's gear. That's how I started winging.
And
N-
now
Just,
now Gwen's
just
like super freak, amazing winger, and it all started with me just saying, "Hey, take all this gear, go. I gotta go have some meetings," and I would get these random texts from Harry, and Gwen's just getting murdered because it was blowing like 30, and it was his first time, and like on the hardest board ever, and he's all bloody, and he just was so stoked after that, and here we are right now. So you never
and
know what can happen.
and yet I loved it. So it doesn't have to be perfect.
Gath visor. Thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Graham. That's it. Gath. Yep.
That's the
That's
brand.
one of those helmets. It's great. And definitely take a look at it for all you out there. Those are, well, we went through some of the list of the most popular questions and answers or questions that we get. Most importantly is, guys, live life to the fullest. Make sure to share it with others. And man, just negativity is something that you can dwell on, or you can just find some positivity in something else and run with it, because it's a choice. You get up you have a choice every day. You can get up happy, or you can get up not happy. You can stress about something really bad. There's no question. There's hard things in life. There's, setbacks and family losses and all that kind of thing. And those are challenging scenarios, but it's how you look at it. It's what you focus on. You can focus on, somebody passing away, or you can focus on how amazing they were, and how much they brought to life. And now they're in a beautiful place. There's so many ways to look at things, and so many ways to always keep that positivity. It's, in our time right now, mental health is so important. And I think it's more important now than ever, because of this much information that is just blasting at your fingertips. And sometimes you feel like you're not valuable and you didn't do good enough. And I'm living like this, and my job is like this, and my relationship is like this. And sometimes you got to take a step back and be like, whoa, things could be a lot worse, and I have a great life. And I get to talk with Gwen and talk with all these amazing people out here.
Yeah, no, I mean, one thing that I always like try to like think about is like, what do I have control over, and then try to make a difference on that, and not necessarily focus on things that I don't have control over, and then maybe like, yeah, like just like keep thinking about this. Or also sometimes we think we don't have control over things that we actually do have control over. So it's just a matter of like trying to be think about it, being honest with yourself, and be, this I have control over, and I'm going to make it the best, and I'm going to focus on that. So that's it.
So on that note, we're going to jump over to our Patreon page and chime in with all our amazing humans that support us there. We want to thank everybody here for just giving us the time, and hopefully, we can share a little bit of light. We really appreciate your engagement to help others. And I mean it, like it's been said many times in all these comments here. People, go out there and just ask somebody, talk to somebody. If you need help, reach out, open up, just ask. You never know. That's the best thing I can say. And enjoy your beautiful Thursday. And we're going to jump over, and when the patron, for $5 a month, you can support this channel and drink coffee, and be a part of this. And hopefully we can shine some light, and share some inspiration, and just help people along the way. That's the goal. So, and you can also just follow along, and we'll just keep pumping stuff out to hopefully help people. So.
Yeah, and like just before we tune out here, Obvious Trash said a video idea on how to travel with your gear. I'm actually traveling to France Saturday with my gear, so maybe I make a video. I film how I pack my gear. So stay tuned for that.
I love it. Great video idea. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And we're going to jump over to the Patreon live show. And thank you, guys, and have a wonderful weekend, and be safe and share that happiness. Amen.
See you guys.